So the next activity that we're going to build is going to be snails. So let's go ahead and build ourselves a snail. We have all the different parts of the body. We actually have the snail body, which has a left side and a right side, as noted right here. We have different parts of the shell, and then we have these two pieces up here that actually connect the shell to the actual body. So the first two pieces that we're going to want to take out are going to be the actual snail pieces. They look like a long snake, and then they have a little antenna at the top. Go ahead and punch those two up now. The antenna section of the body may be a little bit tricky. If you have any issues, you can always use a pen or a pencil to punch those out. That's the second one right there. Go ahead and set those two aside. We will get to those in a moment. The next two pieces will be the really odd pieces towards the top of your board. They look like this right here. Go ahead and punch both of those out now. Okay, after you have them completely poked out, if you take a look at the piece, if we take a look at this piece right here, we notice that there's 2 on the bottom and 5 on the top. These 2 bottom notches actually connect to the 2 notches that are on the body. So if we look at these 2 where my finger is pointing right here, these will actually connect to these upper 2 notches right here. So to show you, it doesn't matter which one of these 2 you put where, they're both the same. Go ahead and line those 2 up. And it will look like this from the side and from the front. This other piece will actually go in line across the bottom. That way when you insert this to the other side, this model will actually stand up on its own. So without the instructions, this is actually the most difficult portion of the model. Everything else is very self-explanatory as far as its assembly. Once you have this far, you can go ahead and set this down on the table. It should stand up on its own like you see. And if we look at our panel board, the remaining parts of the shell go from biggest to smallest, inside to outside. If you look at your panel board, look for the largest part of the shell, which should be the one in the corner. Again, you can have the students punch these out one at a time, that way they don't get them confused. But after we punch the largest one out, we can just kind of compare them to the other ones, and you can easily tell that this is the biggest one. This actually goes right in the center. So if I hold up my snail, the largest one goes into the center notch right here. I'm gonna line that up, and it should slide right in like that. And then the 4 remaining pieces, you can go ahead and pop out. The next 2 that you'll need will be the second largest pieces. This will go onto the left and the right side of the center piece that we just put in. So I'm going to use this one as my right piece, I'm going to go ahead and slide that one right in. Make sure that it's sliding properly into the notch. Sometimes they get a little bit stuck, but cardboard is a very forgiving material. Just make sure you kind of just wiggle it and flex it into place. It should slide down far enough to where it locks. It will not slide all the way down to the base of where the body is. The body will be slightly lower than this side of the shell. That's perfectly fine. So we have this piece on. Go ahead and punch out the other medium-sized piece and slide it into the second slots on the front and the back. The only medium one I have left is right here. I'm going to go ahead and punch that out. And that one slides right into place. Now, depending upon if the students are going to paint them or not, since we are using recycled materials, if you didn't want the cardboard of whatever logo of the material that was recycled to show, you can always flip it around, that way it's not visible. Or if the students have painting supplies, that way they can paint it. It won't matter, you can always paint over it. So again, we have the largest part of the shell plus the two medium pieces. The only two pieces are remaining are the outer parts of the shell. Those are the smallest circles or circular pieces, which should be the only two left on your model. Go ahead and pop those out now. Once you have those two popped out, we place one on that side right there. Of course, again, it does not slide completely to the bottom. The body of the snail should be still visible from the side, but you can tell that it's completely locked into place. This design model, while it is one of the easier designs, I think the easiest design I have is either the gorilla or the elephant. This model in general is made very well to where the students can actually be rough with it and the model doesn't fall apart. But once you have all those pieces together, you have your snail model put together. And if the students want to take the opportunity to paint it, if they have painting supplies, they can do that now. So for the next part, we're actually going to learn a little bit about snails. I created a small portion of this video, that way the students can learn a little bit about the biology and learn what snails actually look like. They're actually very weird creatures. They're very interesting as well. They're very different compared to a lot of the creatures that we see every day. They do have their uses and they make excellent pets. So if you're interested in possibly having a snail at home as a pet, ask your parents to see if they'll allow it. If not, they're still wonderful creatures to learn about. Snails have soft, slimy bodies which are covered by a shell. If you imagine a snail like a foot, a giant muscle that pulls the snail forward as it inches along the ground. Its body is covered in mucus, which makes the ground slick for it to move forward. A snail can protect itself by tucking its body into its shell. The snail has 4 tentacles that come off of the front of it. The longer 2 have an eye attached to each end. The smaller 2 are used for feeling, tasting, and smelling. The snail's eyes don't see like our eyes do. They can only see light and dark. I appreciate everyone taking the time today to learn about snails. Hopefully you learned something today. It's a good opportunity to not only reflect about what it is that you learned, but also to appreciate a new type of creature that we can possibly see in our everyday lives. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. This is Mr. T, and I'll see you next time.